So, welcome to Wednesday's open office on Wednesday, the 17th of January. And today we're going to be covering all around energy balance and the sort of pitfalls that come around using your smart devices, your watches, etc., to sort of help leverage your calorie consumption and why this can be a bit of a drama. So, just going to share the screen there. So, hopefully, you can all see. So today is going to be around energy balance, and this is going to be really important for you moving forward to understand how it works, how it affects certain sort of surpluses, deficits, and how you can maintain your results for once we finish working together long into your later years. So the main thing that we want to cover first before we dive into any of this is understanding macronutrients and micronutrients and what they are. So as you can see there, our macronutrients, when we talk about these are the nutrients that are required more in our diet. So the masses that we need in our diet, and they are going to come from the three: proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. So whenever anyone talks about macronutrients or macros, when it comes to a nutrition standpoint, it's simply just covering your proteins, your carbohydrates, and your fats. And then the next important thing that a lot of people miss out on and don't really shine any light on is going to be your micronutrients. And these are going to be your vital vitamins and minerals. Now, these are predominantly going to come from your fruit, your vegetables, but more commonly now, because people are sort of lacking in the diet sort of area, most people will supplement these in a multivitamin form, which is great, but we always want to make sure that we can try and bridge that gap with our nutrition before we look to supplementing. And usually when we first start out in anything like this, while we're getting our nutrition in check, it's always great to use a multivitamin to sort of bridge that gap in the early days. But then if you was to look and review your diet and you can see that it is full of plenty of vitamins and minerals that you're getting in from your vegetables, your fruit intake throughout a 24-hour period, you can then look and review whether or not you want to continue taking your multivitamins. And again, another thing that we want to look at is the particular country we live in. Obviously, a few of you are quite different where you live. It's sunny most of the time, but certain supplements and vitamins that we won't be getting will be sort of vitamin D, for example. So in the UK, where it's less sunnier during sort of 4 to 6 months of the year, this would be something that would be worth supplementing to get that those vital vitamins in from there. So they're the two that we want to look at: macronutrients and micronutrients, and they're going to be the basis on your nutrition moving out from there. The next thing we want to dive into, and this is going to be sort of leading on to your energy balance equation, is going to be what are calories. Now, everyone talks about calories all the time, but essentially they are literally just the amount of energy that is in a certain item of food. That is simply all it is. It's the same as when you measure miles, kilometers for distance. We just use calories to measure the energy that's available in certain foods. And as you can see there, you get them from your three main sources, which are your macronutrients, again, your proteins, your carbohydrates, and your fats. And this is quite an important piece here that you can see. So for every 1 gram, depending on what the macronutrient is, it will contain a different amount of calories. So as you can see there, proteins and carbohydrates, for every 1 gram of those, they will contain 4 calories. And then fats, you can see, that is considerably more. That is going to be 9 calories, which is why we want to sort of, whenever we're looking at nutrition, we want to limit the amount of fats that we have in our diet, not only from a calorie perspective, but also just from a health perspective as well. And then when it comes to alcohol, 7 calories per gram. Now, a lot of people will say like alcohol is empty calories. As you can see there, it most definitely is not. It is quite substantial, and it doesn't really give you much of a nutritional benefit apart from afterwards. It drives those sort of cravings to want to go and eat and drink those more fast, sugary, available foods. So that's really important there for you to understand. Protein, carbs, 4 calories per gram, fats, 9 calories per gram, and alcohol is going to be 7 calories per gram. Now, when we talk about energy balance now, this is essentially the 3 different things that it comes down to. So whenever it comes to fat loss, fat gain staying the same, it's all going to be depending on the energy coming in versus the energy coming out. So to lose body fat, as you will all know, you need to expend more energy than you consume. Therefore, you need to burn more calories than your body is needing. And the way that it does this is if you create a demand on the body and you aren't feeding it, your body then is forced to use the fat stores that you have in your body to be used as energy. So that's really important to make sure we're going to be in a deficit, that our body is using our stored energy that we've consumed over time, that we haven't got around to using, and it will then use that for that energy for whatever it is that you're doing. And this is where you'll see fat loss over time and you become a smaller person. Now, the complete opposite, if you was to gain body fat, then you need to consume more energy than you expend. Therefore, eat more food, more calories than your body needs. And the only way that you store this is by consuming extra food. You aren't going to be moving, expending it. So your body will just literally store it for later use. So that's the survival sort of mechanism. If we aren't going to use something, then it clearly gets stored to be used at a later date. And it's the same with energy, calories. So when I talk about energy here, that's exactly what I'm referring to, is going to be calories, because that's how we get our energy. We get our energy through calories. So that's the sort of interchangeable word I'll be using, calories and energy. And then to stay the same, we need to match our energy in versus our energy out, and they need to stay the same. And again, when we stay around a maintenance, people seem to think you'll stay bang on 75 kilos, for example, but you will fluctuate, as you know, from doing daily weigh-in, you'll fluctuate daily, and that's completely normal. But what we want to see over time is that you will sort of bounce between a range, and you'll be able to see that average over time. And that's a classic maintenance phase. And this is going to be really important for whenever you hit your desired goal, or where you're comfortable with, that you want to be able to maintain that for the rest of your life. And this is going to explain it a little bit easier for you here. So this is going to be the energy balance equation. So as you can see, you've got like a little seesaw here. Now, on the right, we've got positive energy balance, which would be a calorie surplus, which would mean over time, we would end up accumulating body fat. And then on the left-hand side, we've got a negative energy balance. Now, as you can see there, this would equate to a calorie deficit, equating in fat loss over time. And then if you was to evenly balance it out with calories in versus calories out, then you would be at this even keel here, maintaining your current body weight. So that is how that's going to work, that little visual there. And obviously, if you want to lose body fat, you need to be in a negative energy balance. So you need to be expending more energy than your body needs, and vice versa. If you wanted to gain body fat, or you wanted to be in a slight surplus to be optimal for muscle mass and muscle growth, then you wanted to be in a slight calorie surplus, promoting that. This is going to show you the components of total daily energy expenditure. So when we talk about total daily energy expenditure, this is going to be your maintenance calories. So what your body would need to use on a daily basis to maintain its current physique. And this is how your body will distribute and use this energy throughout that period. So as you can see here, the biggest use of your total daily energy expenditure is going to come from your basal metabolic rate. So simply put, this is your body at complete rest, not doing a single thing. And a really useful way to look at this is it's kind of like your coma calories. So if you was in a coma, for example, you're not moving, all you're doing is breathing general bodily functions. This is what your body would use just to keep you alive, essentially. So you can see that is a huge proportion of your daily calories. And it works out to around about 70% of your total daily energy expenditure. The next biggest thing that is the consumer of your daily calories. And this is what you have complete control over. Now, this is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Now, it sounds very fancy, but all it technically is you walking around. This is you cleaning, doing absolutely like all your normal daily stuff, everything outside of planned exercise. So this is you fidgeting, standing, walking, cleaning, gardening, chasing the kids, getting the kids bathed, battling them, everything outside of that. So you can control this and increase your energy expenditure, therefore speeding up fat loss, for example. The third biggest use of our total daily energy expenditure is going to be your thermic effect of food. Now, this simply is, and again, you can sort of control this with your current makeup of your diet. So proteins, carbohydrates, and fats all will be digested differently by the body. So protein, like I've mentioned before, is harder to digest and break up in the body. Therefore, it will require your body to work a little bit harder, heat up a little bit more to break that food down. And again, that's going to require energy, whereas fat is going to be more easily digestible and it isn't going to require as much energy to break that down and absorb it around the body. So again, you've got that makeup there, which you can control, which is why we want to be eating a high protein diet, because we aren't going to use all of the calories that are in there, for example. So if you had 100 grams of chicken, and let's just say that had 140 calories, you would only have readily available after that about 70% of that calorie intake. So let me just do, if I'd done 140, my maths is terrible. So let's say it's 100 calories. You would only get 70 calories from that. The other 30 calories, or the other 30% of it, would be used in that digestion and breaking that piece of food down. Whereas if you had 100 calories from fat, for example, then you would most probably digest and use 97 calories from that, like 97% of it. So you can see there straight away the calorie, the ready availability that's in different foods is going to be different dependent on the macronutrient. So that's another important thing to sort of take into consideration. And then lastly, which is the biggest thing that most people think is going to get them the best results and burn the most amount of energy, and that's exercise activity thermogenesis. And this makes up literally between 5 and 10% of your total daily energy expenditure. Obviously, if you are a full-time athlete, then it's going to be a little bit more because you're going to be exercising more. But for me and you, it is literally going to be 5 to 10%, if that. So when people look at exercise as a way to burn calories and really increase results, you're literally going to be banging your head against a brick wall, because you're going to get burnt out, tired, and you're going to think that's the only way that you can get results. And 9 times out of 10, people end up giving up because they're under that misconception. Whereas looking at this here, your general day-to-day steps, your step targets, what you do during the working day most of the time is going to be your best friend in terms of energy expenditure and maintaining a healthy physique, a healthy body weight, and also increasing fat loss. And then you've got the thermic effect of food there, which plays a small part in it, but you have control over it because you can choose high protein diet, which is then going to help with that digestion of food. So you're not taking all of the caloric availability that is in those certain foods. So hopefully that sort of explains it a different way for you, so you can see the broad outline of how your body uses energy in the 24-hour period and what's worth sort of going all in with and what's not worth stressing about. And then just sort of quickly just covering over some factors that are impacting your sort of basal metabolic rate, so how many calories you burn at rest. So your age plays a role in this. Now, loads of people will say, oh, when I was younger, I had a fast metabolism. Now I'm older, my metabolism is really slow. That's one of those myths that's always been around. Your metabolism doesn't slow down until you're around about between 65 and 70. And even then, it's by around about 100 calories. The reason people tend to gain weight in their later years is simply because they're more sedentary. Their lifestyle isn't accustomed to what it used to be. You're not walking around all the time. You're not exercising. You have a car. You have responsibilities. You're stuck at a desk. And that's the factor that equates into that accumulation of weight over time. Your sex, males typically have more muscle mass. Muscle is more metabolically active, which is going to use more calories at rest. Your body size, if you're a larger human, your body's going to require more energy just to maintain and keep you alive. Your body composition, again, this comes down to muscle mass. If you have more muscle mass, you will expend and use more energy at rest because muscle, again, is more metabolically active. Your hormonal status, genetics, again, they're going to play a huge role in this, mainly around your mood. And then physical fitness. The fitter you are, the more efficient you are at something. If I was to go running with an Olympic runner, they wouldn't consume as much energy as me because they are bloody good at what they do. They're very efficient and they're very fit. So they're not going to be as clunky as I am. Whereas if I went for a run with them, I would burn more calories because I wouldn't be as efficient. So the fitter you get, the more efficient you become, therefore using less energy. And then dieting history, so metabolic adaptation. So if you have lost a lot of weight and you are a smaller person, your body will then adapt to that of a smaller person, therefore changing your basal metabolic rate. So if your basal metabolic rate when you was 100 kilograms was, let's say, 1,800 calories, you are now a 50 kilogram person, your basal metabolic rate, for example, would be 1,200 calories. So that there has a huge difference just because you are a smaller person. And then just to finish off on, this will literally be another sort of couple of minutes here. The accuracy of activity monitors. Now, I know a lot of people will use like Apple Watches and it will say, congratulations, you've closed your loop, you've burned 500 calories today, you've burnt 600 calories on your run, etc. And this can trip a lot of people up because they can see that and be like, oh, I've burnt 600 calories here. I'm going to just input this on here. I'm going to tell Josh that I've had this. I'm not going to tell him that I've done this. And this can trip you up because you can be banging your head against a brick wall wondering why you're not seeing results. When the fact of the matter is, the Fitbits, your watches, etc., when they were put through vigorous testing, through 3 separate reviews, they all came to the same conclusion that they're inconclusive. They can't accurately measure your energy expenditure, but they are very good at measuring your daily steps. But when it comes to energy expenditure, it isn't something that they can calculate or calories burned. And the reason for this is because everybody has individual physiology, like we mentioned here. So the factors that can affect this. So it makes it very difficult for them to come up with an equation to actually calculate how this would work. And each company will have their own equation and calculation to work this out. And again, there's so many different variables that it's impossible to do unless you had one for every individual, which clearly isn't a thing. So it'd be a very broad generalization, which is why it isn't useful. So whenever it comes to your activity monitors, don't use them for calories burned. Don't use them for estimating how many calories you've burnt, your total daily energy expenditure, anything like that. Strictly use them for keeping the time, keeping your steps. The heart rate monitors are very good on there as well. They're fairly accurate. So just use them for those things. Don't use them for how many calories you've burnt, etc. And as you can see there, the conclusion for it, great for measuring steps, great for accountability, great for monitoring your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, so your daily steps, for example, but they're not great for estimating your energy expenditure. So please do not eat back the calories burned that it says on your watch, because you will most probably put yourself in a surplus because they always overestimate how many calories you've burned. And then just to finish on, just remember, your body is the most accurate food diary you will ever keep. Okay, so if your MyFitnessPal is telling you you're consuming 1,500 calories, and I know that that puts you in a deficit, but you aren't losing body fat, the fact of the matter is you aren't consuming those amount of calories. And that analogy that I say all the time, like if you looked at your weather app and it said that it was raining outside, but you looked out the window and it was sunny, which one would you believe? And you need to take ownership for this at certain times and sort of catch up with reality and then see what's actually going on. And this will really benefit you moving forward. So